Hello, hello. Hope you guys are doing well. I am running behind schedule. Of course, my computer decided to completely crash right as I was trying to sign on to go live. So I had to reboot it and do all of that. And I know that if you're super late signing on to StreamYard, they actually won't let you live stream. So I'm going to log into Facebook real quick and just make sure that I am actually streaming live. Hopefully you guys are able to hear me. So I'm going to go ahead and yep, it looks like we are there. Awesome. We should be live streaming into my Facebook group, The Profit Factor, onto my YouTube channel, The Profit Factor, and also onto my business Facebook page, The Chic CFO. If you guys are here, please say hello in the comments, or if you're catching the replay, let me know that in the comments as well. And you do have to grant StreamYard permission in order for me to see your name. It's just the way that the app works. So if you don't grant them permission, I won't be able to see it. Oh, hi, how are you? All right, we've got a couple of people on. Awesome, awesome. All right, so we are gonna dive in. Again, sorry that I was a bit late. So for those of you who are new here, my name is Danae Wolf. I'm a financial clarity coach and a profit strategist. So what does that mean? Well, it basically means that I help entrepreneurs like you understand the money side of their business. Because I believe that if you understand the way that money works in your business, you're going to be able to make more of it. And I believe that increased profits creates decreased stress. And I think an increase in profit can create a better life for you, your employees, your customers, your family. I really genuinely believe that. And I think that oftentimes one of the biggest hurdles when it comes to profitability in the business is a lack of financial literacy. So that's what I try to do here through my podcast, YouTube channel, this Facebook group. I'm just trying to help you guys understand the way that finances work. And I know it can tend to be a snooze fest when we talk about money. So I try to keep it light. I try to speak in the English language so you guys can actually understand. Try to refrain from using any type of accounting jargon. So today's topic, I am super excited to dive into because I know that the majority of you guys following me are service providers, with most of you tending to be cleaning companies, but the bulk of you are definitely service providers. And one of the topics that come up a lot in service-based businesses is this concept of contractor versus employee. So today, what I really want to do is dive into the differences of hiring an employee versus hiring an independent contractor. Now, hashtag disclaimer, right? This video is for educational purposes. So I don't want you to misinterpret this to be any type of legal advice. And I want to let you know that the laws that govern whether or not your worker should be classified as an employee or a contractor are going to be twofold. We're going to first have to follow federal law, and we're also going to have to look at the state, because states can also have differences in the way in which they categorize a contractor versus an employee. Now, when it comes to the state, one thing that I do want to point out is it's usually dictated by the state where the worker is located, not the state where you run your business. But again, every state's going to be a bit different. So you're going to want to make sure that you are very well informed as to what your state law is. So just wanted to throw out that quick disclaimer and let you guys know that. So why does all of this matter, right? I really want to start there because I've spoken to some entrepreneurs that are like, yeah, I don't really know the difference between a contractor and employee, but does it matter? Here's why it matters, okay? When someone is an employee, you as the employer, are responsible for filing their taxes. All right. So they're known as payroll taxes. This is going to be paid on the federal level, the state level. But as the employer, you essentially pay a portion of that tax. So just using, round numbers here, if the employee owes $5 in taxes, as the employer, you might contribute 2 and they'll pay the remaining 3. So you contribute toward their taxes and you are responsible for getting those filed and paid as they are due, right? So this is why our employees will have a gross pay versus a net pay, right? Because we've docked them for the payroll taxes. We've contributed our portion and we've made sure that that tax has been paid to the correct federal or state agency. Now, a little bit off topic here, but just as a caveat to this, I highly recommend that you use a payroll company in order to do that. Payroll taxes can be a bit complex, and I never suggest trying to navigate that system on your own. My absolute fave payroll company is Gusto, hands down. They are the best in my humble opinion, and I've worked with quite a lot of payroll companies, but they will really make sure that all of the taxes are properly filed and paid on time for you. So when someone is an employee, that is automatically happening, right? As the employer, we're making sure that the taxes are being filed and paid. If the person is a contractor, we're not doing that. So essentially, what the IRS says is worker classification is important because it determines if an employer must withhold those income taxes. So in other words, if we don't categorize them as an employee, we're not doing anything in regards to the taxes. We're not guaranteeing to the government that those are going to be filed and paid by us. So basically, make a long story short here, a miscategorization is essentially tax evasion. And I know that that sounds dramatic, but that is how it is interpreted by the IRS, right? We are evading paying payroll taxes if we are wrongfully classifying a worker as a contractor when they should, in fact, be an employee. So that's really why this whole thing becomes such an issue. And I know people in this group and in our Facebook group community, the Profit Factor, have lived through this because many of you have messaged me when you've gone through an audit with the Labor Department, which is and I know nobody likes the word audit, but they're real and they happen. And essentially what happens is the Labor Department's going to come into your business, start poking around, asking a ton of questions, and they are going to determine whether or not your workers are correctly classified. Now, here's the thing. They're really not going to care if somebody has been classified as a worker and really should be a contractor. They're not going to care about that because they're getting those payroll taxes. However, if somebody is being classified as a contractor and they're really an employee, you're going to have a problem and you're going to have to pay back those payroll taxes that you have been not paying. And this is why it's tax evasion. Now, the other thing, and we're going to get into the nitty gritty, guys, of what the differences is, but what I hear a lot in the entrepreneurial community is that employers, we're looking to hire a contractor because we want to avoid paying payroll taxes. We don't want to pay that. And one thing that I really find to just be a miscommunication, maybe a misinterpretation of the law, there seems to be this idea that it's so much money. And what I want to get across is it's typically 7.65%. All right. So this is not a lot of money that we're talking about, right? Yes, every penny counts when we are, managing the finances of our business. but you actually really need to consider the risk factor here, because you're committing a crime if you're doing this wrong. And 9 out of 10 times, right, people are doing it wrong intentionally because they don't want to pay payroll taxes. There are those of you who are doing it wrong innocently. You don't know the differences of an employer and a contractor, which is what we're going to get into. But some of you are doing it intentionally because you are hanging your hat on this idea that you do not want to pay payroll taxes. And I just want to tell you, don't be that dramatic, all right? It's not that big of a deal. All right. You guys are wasting way more money in your lives, most likely, on things. Let's always be compliant. If you guys are looking for a kind of loophole, beat the system, I'm not your girl. I have a very low risk tolerance for doing anything that is not compliant, particularly if it's not compliant with Uncle Sam. So that's my soapbox. I will get off of it now. And let's dive into what the differences are, right? So essentially, when we bring on a worker in our business, we are going to make this determination, make this categorization of, is this individual an employee or are they an independent contractor? Now, when you are bringing an employee on board, this is when you're going to want to be working with a payroll company such as Gusto. There is going to be payroll taxes that are going to have to be filed and paid to the state and federal agents on very specific due dates, right? And we're also putting ourselves in a situation where we are bringing this employee on board and we are able to tell them where, when, and how we want them to work. And we are also agreeing to pay a portion of their tax. So payroll taxes are about 15.3%. Typically, what's going to happen is the employee is going to pay the 7.65, and you as the employer are going to pay the remaining 7.65, right? We essentially are going to split those payroll taxes down the middle. So again, this person is your employee. You are now able to tell them this is where you work, this is when you work, and this is how you work. So let's dive into what that really means, right? If you are hiring someone and the hours are Monday to Friday, 8 to 5, in your offices, and you are putting them through a training program, this is an employee, because we've now told them where to work, right? They're to report to work at your office. We've told them when they're to work Monday to Friday, 8 to 5. And we've told them how by putting them through our training process. So once you are starting to have that level of control, right, where we're dictating how, where, and when this worker is working, we are looking at an employee situation. Now, a contractor is actually an independent business owner. You can only dictate the results of their work. You cannot dictate how, where, or what will be done when it comes to the work. So let's look at some examples of what would be an employee versus what would be a contractor. So you hire someone to work in your office doing administrative tasks Monday to Friday, 9 to 2. And you have them go through an onboarding process where you train them and show them how you like your items organized in your Google Drive. You show them how you want your graphics done in Canva and what sort of color schemes you want, and so on and so forth. So you've trained this person. You have told them when to work, how to work, where to work. That's your employee, your administrative assistant that you brought on board. Now, let's say that you are bringing on an assistant and you are simply telling them, I need an email funnel created in Kajabi. I need some graphics in Canva. And I really need someone to go through my emails. You did not tell them, these are the hours when you have to do it. This is where you have to be when you do it. And this is how you have to do it. That was not your instruction to them. Your instruction was, this is what I need done. There is a very distinct difference. So let's apply this to bookkeeping, right? What my company does. When a client hires us, they are not telling me how to do their bookkeeping. They are simply telling me, I want my bookkeeping completed each month. I am deciding the way in which to do the bookkeeping. So I am determining the how. I decide when I do the bookkeeping, and I decide where I do the bookkeeping. I could be sitting on the beach doing their bookkeeping, or I could be sitting in my home office. I could be wherever I want, because the only thing that my clients were able to tell me was the result of the work. And the result is that they need completed books every month, right? So there's a very, very clear distinction here. Now, you might have a situation, because this is what I get asked a lot, right? You might have a situation where you go, well, I have to tell the contractor when to work because it has to be done at a certain time. This is different, and this can be that gray area where people tend to get confused. So my clients would need the books done every month, right? They need the books done every month. But rather than my client telling me, hey, I need you to do my books and have them to me by the 20th of each month, right? That would be them telling me when they need it. Instead, remember, what did I say about contractors? We are independent business owners. So instead, what's happening is my clients are coming to me and asking about the service I offer in my business. And I am able to tell them, this is when your books will be complete. Another key difference here is it's not a situation where you are able to tell the contractor what you pay them, right? Because when it comes to the financial piece of this, the independent contractor is their own business owner. So 9 times out of 10, they should be telling you what their rate is. Because remember, we cannot control their behavior, right? We cannot control when they work, how they work, and so on. So I know a lot of you are listening to this and you're either thinking, wow, I'm miscategorizing, or you're thinking, oh, there's so many questions, there's so much gray, I don't really know where I fall. If it is not black and white, if you're not listening to this going, okay, I know that Jane on my team is totally an employee, and I know that Shannon is definitely a contractor. If you are not in that black and white situation, I strongly urge you to consult with someone to ensure that you are not doing this incorrectly. It is not a mistake that you want to make. And I know there are lots of you in this group who have gone through these labor audits and have had to pay these past due payroll taxes and have got stuck with penalties. If any of you are comfortable, please drop it in the comments and just briefly share a bit of your story, how you went through an audit and it was discovered that you were misproperly categorizing workers, because it is something that happens. The other thing that I want to point out when it comes to a contractor, you can't train them. They are supposed to be coming to you with this skill set already in place, right? My clients do not teach me how to do their bookkeeping. They don't teach me that. They give me the tools I need in order to do it by granting me permission to their QuickBooks account, but they're not teaching me how to do their bookkeeping. They're also not evaluating the way in which I do it, based on some type of a performance review, right? Something that you would typically do with an employee. Now, they might not like my work and let me go and just say, we no longer require your services. But it's not a situation where they can come in and train me and try to evaluate my performance because I am an independent business owner. Think of this no differently than if you were to drop your dog off at the groomer, right? You cannot dictate to the dog groomer when and where and how they do, they groom your dog. Maybe you could pick the scent of the shampoo and pick the bandana they're going to wear. But for the most part, this is a licensed professional who knows what they're doing. You are not responsible for training them and telling them how to do their job, right? They're an independent business owner and they know what they're doing. So there is a very clear distinction here. And most of you are going to know that this is very black and white. Some of you are going to get stuck in this gray area. And I strongly urge you, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions for you guys. But I also encourage you to stop looking at it through this perspective of, I have to avoid payroll taxes at all costs, because that's just the buzz I hear in the entrepreneurial community. Okay. The reason why people want contractors is because they don't want to pay payroll taxes. And I find that to be a bit of a dramatic reason to open yourself up to possibly doing this the wrong way. Now, there are many of you who are going to have businesses that absolutely warrant the use of independent contractors, right? I have people on my team who are able to do their tasks when they want, where they want, and how they want, because all I care about is the result and that it was actually done. All I care about is that somebody sent that email and it went out. I don't care when they did it, when they wrote it, how they did. She could have been sitting on her phone at her kid's soccer practice doing it. I don't care. That is a contractor. But the people on my team that I'm like, you have to be here at 9 a.m. You have to do it just like this. You have to send me this report. That's an employee. That is an employee. Another thing that I will tell you, that a lot of times if you go through one of these audits, a question that will come up very often is this idea that the contractor you hire should not be doing a service that is the majority of the work that is done by your business. So let me get a little bit more micro and explain that. This is really the main reason why I'm not a big fan of cleaning companies using contractors, because what this statute, for lack of a better word, essentially is saying is, if your company makes widgets, right? That is 97% of your sales are because your company makes widget, you sell widgets, and you try to hire a contractor to make the widgets, that's going to be an issue because the IRS is going to say, this is the bulk of what you deliver. Now, if you mostly sell widgets, but you need a one-off thing like a brand new website design, it's okay to hire a contractor. Now, when it comes to doing a website design, you're going to be really freaking picky, right? You are going to tell the person exactly how you want it. And you might say to yourself, okay, well, I'm kind of micromanaging this. I'm telling them exactly, what to do, how to do it. I'm telling them when I need it by. Maybe that means they're an employee. And that's where you got this protection where the IRS is saying, well, this isn't what your company does. You don't sell websites. That's not what you do. You're a cleaning company. You just hired this person as a one-off job to do your website. That's a very clear distinction, right? Now, the other thing that really you have to really consult with your state reach out to somebody like myself, is you want to really pay attention to what is the level of training, what is the level of hours, right? If you are in a situation where you're telling someone this needs to be done by 4, right? The deliverable, I'm hiring you because I need this done by 4, right? This could be that gray area, right? That's very difficult to not dictate when they have to work if there is a deliverable. So when it comes to something that's outside of the scope of what your business normally does, don't worry about it. You're covered. But if your company sells widgets and you're trying to hire a widget maker as a contractor, we're getting into this gray area. And a lot of times with cleaning companies, this is the issue because they're bringing on independent contractors and they're cleaning companies and they're bringing on cleaners. And the IRS is going to say, well, that's what you do. It's not like you brought on a one-time person to do a website design or some type of marketing campaign, right? So here is what we have started to see happen in the industry. And again, I want to be super clear. Why is this happening? Because people have hung their hat on wanting to avoid payroll taxes. And a certain point, you really need to ask yourself, are you kind of just biting off your nose to spite your face? Like, is it worth trying to jump through all these hoops and redo the way you do things just to make sure that these people can be classified as contractors because you want to avoid payroll taxes, right? So just some food for thought with that. But what you will see, and what I have seen, is cleaning companies will, I'm sure you guys have heard of this, the big company Handy, right? They will actually restructure and say that they're not a cleaning company, that they are a referral agency. And they will really be setting it up where a homeowner comes to them and says, hey, I need a cleaner or I need a painter. And they're just like a matchmaking service. And then you can have these independent contractors that you sign independent contractor agreements with, and they can sort of log into the various jobs that you have offered, and they can pick and choose how they want it, right? If they want to sign up and take it or not. And we've also seen a ton of this happen with Uber, right? A ton of it happen with Uber because again, why is it something that is such a source of contention? Because the government wants their payroll taxes, right? Everything always comes back to money, guys, right? This is typically if something's becoming a bigger issue and you're like, wait, why is this such a big issue? Well, follow the paper trail. It's usually money. So the government wants to make sure they're getting their taxes. So it's something that you really don't want to be doing incorrectly, right? Because these audits happen. These audits happen, guys, way more than regular tax filing audits. These labor audits happen way more because it costs the government money when somebody is being, taxed as a contractor as opposed to an employee. So I strongly, strongly encourage you to look at your workers and really question if you have them categorized correctly, right? So, behavioral, are you telling them when to work, how to work? Are you controlling that financially? Did you tell them how much you were going to pay them, or did they dictate it to you? Because an independent contractor is supposed to be an independent business owner who has their own service offering with their own pricing and their own deliverable timeline. Once you are controlling their compensation, where they work, how they work, when they work, you really have to strongly consider that this person might be an employee. And when in doubt, please reach out to a professional and just get some advice. You can reach out to an employment attorney. You can reach out to your accountant. Feel free to contact me. And we can really work through your individual situation. But a lot of times there's gray. there's gray. And you just want to make sure you are navigating it correctly. And I want to really eliminate this culture in entrepreneurship where we feel like we should not be paying payroll taxes and that we need to avoid it. I really, in my personal business, saw tremendous growth when I did switch to bringing on some key people in an employee role. Because once I was able to have set hours and really dictate the way in which they did their work, it was a game changer. Everything started to move more efficiently. I still have plenty of opportunity for contract work within the business. It definitely has its advantages. But when you have a dedicated team member, right, with an employee, they're typically only working for you. They're not working somewhere else. So their time isn't as spread. And you can really have them, become a key member of your team and help you move the needle here. So a lot to consider. There are pros and cons to working with contractors and employees. And I just strongly urge you to come at it from a mindset of, I want to do this the right way. Rather than, because what I typically see is an entrepreneur coming at it from, I'm not paying payroll taxes, so I am going to do whatever I have to do to ensure that this person gets categorized as a contractor. And you oftentimes are shooting yourself in the foot by doing that. So don't be intimidated by payroll taxes. We're not talking about a whole lot of money. And really come from a place of, I just want to be compliant. I want to be doing this the right way. We have enough things to worry about as entrepreneurs. We don't need to be worried about a freaking labor audit as well, right? Whatever we can control, let's control. That is one area where we can easily make sure that we are compliant and we don't have to stress about an audit happening. So I hope that this was helpful today. If you guys have any questions, drop it in the comments. I do my absolute best to respond to all of our comments. And if you shoot me a private message, if it's maybe a question you're not comfortable putting in the comments, I always do my best to respond personally to every single message as well. I hope to talk to each of you soon. And I just want to go through the comments real quick and see if there's any questions. Oh, someone else said they use Gusto. Yes, Gusto is an amazing payroll company. And the great thing with them is whether you have employees or you have contractors, they are able to do all of the filings for you. Because when it comes to the end of the year and tax time, there are very different forms that have to be filed in regards to whether or not you had a contractor or an employee. Gusto handles it for both, which is amazing. I've encountered some payroll companies who will only file everything for you if you're using employees. So another great reason to check out Gusto. Somebody did have a question. Hold on. I have all 1099 hairstylists. I want a part-time receptionist. Do I have to add her to payroll? Okay. So when it comes to hairstylists, I'm assuming you have a hair salon. This can be one of those gray areas, right? Because technically speaking, the way that this should work is that contractor, these hairstylists, would be telling you what they want to get paid. So I don't know how that arrangement happened, but I would encourage you to think back to when you hired them. Did you dictate the pay or did they? Are you telling them when they have to work, or is it a situation where they're giving you their availability and they're saying, hey, go ahead and feel free to book me at such and such times? So just do a little bit of research in there, make sure you don't have any gray area. But for a receptionist, that's absolutely going to be an employee. You are going to be having her come into work at very specific times, I would assume, right? You're going to be training her on how to use your computer system and how to greet your clients, and maybe you give them a certain type of beverage when they walk through the door. You're going to train her, right? So you are going to be telling this individual how to work, where to work, when to work. Now with the hairstylists, they're coming to you fully trained, right? I'm assuming you're hiring all licensed beauticians. So they're coming to you trained. So you are at least definitely checking that box. You're not telling these stylists how to do their job. They came to you with that knowledge. I would just look at, how is the operations kind of structured? Are you dictating how much money they make, when they work? Just look into that a little bit. But in regards to that receptionist, that is an employee. That is definitely an employee. Because how are you going to say, because remember, one of the things with it being a contractor is you're just talking about the results. You can't dictate anything else. How would you tell the receptionist, well, the result is I need you to answer the phones? Well, in order for her to do that, you have to tell her where and when she has to be there to answer the phones. So a receptionist would definitely be an employee. Now, someone like a virtual assistant, right? That's very different because you're just telling them the deliverable that you need. They're going to, oftentimes, they have their own businesses. You are probably one of many clients that they have, right? That's another pretty big distinction when it comes to contractors. You are not their end all be all. They have quite a lot of clients because they're running their own company. So, in this situation, I would definitely encourage you to categorize your hair salon's receptionist as an employee. And I don't see any other questions here, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off for the day. I hope that this was helpful. Please, please, please be compliant. Like I said, if you guys want a loophole, I am not your girl. So hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you guys next week.